When our son entered his teen years, we started having a lot of problems that we hadn't seen before. We saw very drastic changes in his personality, in his friends, and his activities. We had adopted him when he was 14 months old. He had been in an orphanage. It was an international adoption, and there had always been some difficulties, but we had tried our best to work with counseling in town and working within our wider support system. But when he hit those teen years, we really began to experience a crisis that we just didn't know how to deal with. The counselors with whom we'd been working, it was beyond their capability even. And we had to go the route of residential treatment. We did, he was in a place in our hometown on 2 different occasions when we reached very much difficult situations that were just very frightening for him and for us. Those residential programs did not help. We also tried one in an area not too far away from us. And in each of those settings, although we found some degree of help, the programs were largely pencil and paper. He, was asked to evaluate different situations in his life and respond, and if there was anything that he could do, to hurry his stay in residential treatment, it was to get those assignments done quickly. And there wasn't really a lot of support available to the families. It was more or less, he's the problem, let's put him in and we'll try to fix him. And we just felt that we were not learning ourselves what to do to help him. And he really wasn't getting any better. And following another crisis situation, we were lucky enough to find Calo. We discovered it at first on the internet. We were in a desperate situation. We didn't know, who else in our local area to turn to. And we found information about Calo. And by one of those great coincidences, someone in another part of the country whom my mother knew had a child that was at Calo, and I was able to speak to the parent and find out a good bit about Calo. And we spoke to staff at Calo before we reached that decision that was going to be the best place for him. And although it meant that he was going to be away from home for a long time, we really had no other choices at that time other than some that would have been quite devastating and breaking up our family. And our goal was to bring our family back together. And that was, I think, one of the most striking things about Calo is the focus that it is these relationships, the family, the parent, the child, the siblings, that's the key to bringing that healing for the student and for the family.
For me, one of the neat things about Calo is what you learn about yourself and what you learn about your family. Yes, they've helped our son immensely, but they've helped our family even more. My wife and I have always been on the same page, but now that you talk about empathy and you think you know the definition of it, but until you get in and practice it and you see how it can make a difference in your life and in your family's life, that's where the Calo difference comes in. When
you first visit Calo, it just has a much different feel to it. Having visited our son when he was in these other residential programs, it seems like you're just kind of shown in, and you sign in and you're shown into a room, and your child's brought to you and you get to visit with them for a short time, and you don't really understand perhaps what their day-to-day life is like when they're in one of those programs. When you walk into Calo, you're in this wonderful open space. You see the canines all running around. The staff come up and introduce themselves, and there's just a feeling that is so different in such a more peaceful place. a place, where I felt immediately comfortable. I'm sure that the students have more of an adjustment than I did as a parent, but it just has a warmth and a peacefulness to it, and I guess really a vitality too with the students there. You can see where they do their artwork. You can see places where they play their music, play games. And I don't think gone in a single time when there weren't some of the boys out either playing volleyball or kicking a soccer ball around or tossing a ball to one of the canines. The staff at Calo is incredible. You feel the caring that they have for the students. We've worked with the therapist that we work with has really helped all of us along as we've all struggled to move along the path. The coaches are the staff that are with the kids 24/7, and I can't speak highly enough of them. When you go to visit, they come up and introduce you. Oh, we're so glad to meet you. We've heard a lot about you. You can just feel a difference with them, and the key to that, I think, is the empathy that they feel for the students. They're not there to watch the kids and make sure they stay out of trouble. Of course they do watch the kids, but they actually, they get in there with the students, and they can really make a difference. I know in our son's experience, his coaches have really meant so much to him. The fact that they can come up to, they really get to know the student. They come up to them, they can sense when things are kind of going on with them. One thing that they do very differently at Calo is that when students having a problem, they don't isolate. They don't isolate them. They work with them through something called closeness, where they stick with the kid. They're there for them as they're going through whatever, difficult situation it might be, whether they're, angry at someone else in the community, or whether they are, perhaps having a difficult time working through some of their issues, maybe with their parents. The coaches are really there for them. They feel that empathy. They practice that empathy. They come alongside of the kids and try to look at things from the child's perspective. And I think that caring, that level of caring, makes a tremendous difference in the lives of the kids there.
The trauma that we had gone through, through his experience and our experience, and to know that he was going to be out of our house for a good long while, because their program is not an 8-week fix. There is not an 8-week fix out there, okay? It took months and months and months, and they supported us through the entire thing.
One of the best parts of Calo has been what my husband and I have learned about ourselves as individuals and as parents. We have had to work through a lot of things ourselves. I think any family that comes to the point of residential treatment has been through a lot already, and that stress can add a lot to the entire family dynamic. The family sessions that we have on a weekly basis, we do have them via Skype or in person when we're there visiting. Those family sessions have been so meaningful for us.
That's the power of empathy. That's the power of connection, break, and repair. That's the Calo experience. And the Calo experience for us has been one of the most rewarding of my life. I was on the edge of losing my family.
At Calo, you work through those sessions, work towards learning empathy for your child. I think that oftentimes there's so much anger and pain on all ends of the equation going into a situation such as a residential placement, that it's hard to get beyond that. And in those early sessions when we were more learning to do the active listening and trying to step back and empathize with our son. You know, at times you just have to kind of sit there and almost bite your tongue and to remember that going back and revisiting those painful times is not going to help. What really helped amazingly was to be able to see things through our son's eyes. Well, yes, you know, you got angry at that time, but gosh, what were you feeling? Perhaps it was, in his case, perhaps he was feeling really lonely or ashamed. He had some self-esteem problems. And to have that insight into him and the guidance of his therapist to help us to see that, to practice that over and over was really the breakthrough for us. And now we've come to the point where our son is about to graduate, and here in the last few weeks we've been able to see that he has learned how to empathize with us and to understand the pain that we were feeling in some of these situations where things were really just out of control.
If we had listened to therapists in our local area, our family would have been broken up. It would have been destroyed. But Calo was there. Calo listened. Calo did more than listen. Calo worked. I'm very optimistic about the future, and I'm so grateful for what Calo has done.